is the sewing tutorial for the Pixie Ruffle Mini Skort. It's sewn with a self-enclosed elastic waistband, so it has a really relaxed fit throughout the waist and hips. The front and back yoke is paired with a flounce ruffle, and underneath are built-in shorts. The skirt slightly flares out, so you can see the shorts kind of peeking through along the hem. And the sewing pattern is available on my Etsy, Sewing with Jenn, if you guys want to follow along. The pattern is layered separately by size for easier cutting. So off to the left, we have the page thumbnails, and further down is the layers icon. Toggle off the sizes you don't want and make sure to leave the piece info visible. To print, leave the orientation at auto, 100% scale, and for the style, you don't need to print the entire document. Look in the instructions booklet to see what pages to print. It'll range anywhere from 18 to 29 pages depending on your specific size. This style works with a variety of fabrics, pretty much any light to mid-weight woven non-stretch fabric. It really depends on the look you're wanting. So a stiffer material like cotton or linen will create a fuller skirt, while a more delicate material like silk or satin will create a more flowy and draped skirt. In this tutorial, I'm using 100% cotton poplin and sewing a size 4. For the notions, we'll need a 1-inch wide elastic that fits around the mid-waist, a safety pin to help guide it through, and an optional rolled hem foot to finish the hems. We'll be using the one that has a number 6 on it, which stands for 6 millimeters. You don't absolutely need it, but we are working with a curved hemline, so it does make it a lot easier. If you don't have one, that's okay. I'm still going to be going over some sewing tips if you're using a regular presser foot as well. There's a total of 8 pattern pieces. The front and back yokes and the front and back skirt ruffles are cut on fold, while the shorts and short ruffles are cut mirrored. You'll notice markings for the waistband fold line. You don't need to mark it. It's more so just a guide for when you're ironing the waistband, and it's easier to just use a ruler once we get to that point. Then we have the notches. So because the front and back pattern pieces look so similar to each other, I decided to only add notches to the back pieces only to help tell them apart. And it may also be helpful if you want to mark the center points here at the yokes and skirt. These notches aren't marked on the pattern, but it's directly at the fold line. If you're working with a delicate material, you might need to sew a stay stitch along the inner curves of the skirt and short ruffles. So because it's a circular shape, it'll partially be cut on bias, so we don't want it to stretch out. Just keep that in mind. A stay stitch is just a regular straight stitch, 1/4 inch from the raw edge. My material isn't very delicate, so I don't need to worry about that. And before we get started, I do want to mention that there is going to be quite a bit of back and forth between sewing and overlocking to finish the seams. So if you want to avoid that, you can overlock or zigzag all of the edges first. Just leave out the hemlines. And if you're sewing along, I recommend working on steps 1 and 2 at the same time, like how I will be in this tutorial. And that's just so there's less back and forth between the sewing, pinning, and ironing. So let's get started. I'm going to begin by lining up all of the side seams right sides together. Here we have the front and back yoke and the front and back skirt ruffles. For the shorts, same thing, right sides together, but I'm only going to attach the outer side seam for now, and then the same for the short ruffles, lining up the front and back right sides together and only attaching the outer side seam. Stitch everything in place. I'm just sewing continuously in one line, but I am making sure to do a back stitch at the beginning and end of each piece. It's so much faster this way, and once I'm done, I'll trim the threads, separate all of the pieces, and then overlock the raw edges. Now for some ironing. If you overlocked all of your edges in the beginning, then make sure to press your seams open, but I'm overlocking as I go, and I'm overlocking my seams together, so I'm pressing all of the side seams towards the back. To assemble the skirt, we're going to turn the yoke right sides out, rotate it so it's upside down, and then put it inside of the skirt so it's now right sides facing, and then line it up along the side seams and along the back notches. For the shorts, we're going to attach the ruffle hem, so rotate the shorts upside down with the right side up, and then attach the ruffle right sides together. It's really easy to mix up the ruffle for the right side and the ruffle for the left side, so make sure the back notches line up. We're also going to be lining up the side seam as well. I didn't have any pins with me at the moment, but use a pin here so the seams match up perfectly, and then repeat for the opposite side. I'm sewing the shorts here first, and if you look closely, you'll see a stitch line, and if you're wondering why, it's because I was sewing without any thread in my bobbin, so I had to start over. But anyways, you can see the pin that I added here, and I'm going to take it out right before sewing over the side seam. And with the needle down, I'm just going to readjust my angle since the side seam is curved upward. I also like to use my right hand along the back and kind of help guide it through the curve. Now back to the skirt. We're stitching together the yoke and the ruffle here. Take your time sewing the curve. We want to avoid any puckering. There is going to be a lot of pausing and adjusting, so just make sure your needle is in the down position each time. I find it really helpful to lift the ruffle up a couple of inches as you sew, and it helps to naturally release some of the creases. And once that's done, overlock or zigzag the raw edges. I'm pressing all of the ruffle seam allowance upwards, and this is so the flounce ruffle drapes down naturally. And now that we've attached the ruffle hem to the shorts, we can now line up the inseam, stitch it in place, and overlock or zigzag the raw edges. We're back at the iron. It's so tedious, but it must be done. And again, I'm pressing my seams towards the back. We're then going to close up the rise on the shorts. So line up both of the front shorts right sides together and both of the back shorts right sides together right along the rise. So make sure to match up the crotch inseam and you'll end up with something like this, which is basically one side of the shorts within the other side, right sides together. I like to start sewing at the midpoint along the crotch just to make sure it'll line up nicely. Also, it reinforces it a bit more because of the back stitches. I then flip it over, check my inseam to make sure it's aligned, and then finish off the other side and overlock the raw edges. To attach the skirt and the shorts together, we'll start with both pieces right sides out. Insert the shorts within the skirt and line up the side seams and pin it in place. Change the stitch length to the widest setting and sew a basting stitch right along the top at the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is just to help keep the two pieces aligned while we prep the casing for the elastic. Fold right along the basted stitch inwards and towards the wrong side of the shorts and press it in place. If you're using a thicker material, you might want to trim and grade the excess seam allowance here to help reduce any bulk. We'll then fold again to hide the raw edge, but this time down to the fold line, which is 1.25 inches down. So use your ruler to measure and iron as you go. Pin it in place and we'll sew it down with an edge stitch. Don't sew it completely closed. We do need to leave an opening for the elastic about 2 inches, and I have mine towards the back side. We're using a 1 inch wide elastic. I do have the suggested length measurements for all of the sizes in the instructions booklet, but it really depends on the type of elastic you're using, so measure it around your mid-waist to make sure it fits nicely. I'm using a safety pin on one end of the elastic to help guide it through the casing, just moving it along and adjusting the fabric as I go. Once the elastic is in, I like to pin together both ends to temporarily close it, and just feel along to make sure the elastic isn't twisted and that it lays flat. After checking that, we're going to overlap the ends of the elastic by 1/2 inch, one above the other, and just use a zigzag stitch to sew it in place, making sure to use a back stitch so it's really secure. Stretch the elastic so it's fully within the casing, and then close up the opening with an edge stitch, and make sure not to stitch over the elastic with your needle. Stretch it out again to evenly spread out the gathers, and I like to stitch in the ditch along the side seams to secure the elastic. It's basically a hidden top stitch directly in the side seam of the casing, and this will just help to keep it from twisting. Lastly, we just need to finish the hems. I'm going to go over how to finish the hems using a rolled hem presser foot first, and after I'll go over how to finish it with a regular presser foot. First, we need to prep the hem and turn the edges in a 1/4 inch towards the wrong side and press it in place, and this crease will just help as a guide as we're sewing. Switch to the rolled hem presser foot. It looks like this with the number 6 on it. Start with a double fold and sew it in place with a few stitches at first. Then with the needle down, raise your presser foot and insert the folded edge of the fabric into the curled part of the foot. I like to line it up at the opening, then lift the back of the foot up so the front dips down, and at the same time kind of twisting the fabric in. Lower the presser foot and start sewing. You want to continuously pinch together a double fold to help guide it. And specifically for curved hems, I find it really helpful to feed the fabric in at an angle. You don't want to position the fabric straight in because the fold will just undo itself. And you can't really tell from this video, but my hands are about 2 inches towards the left side of my needle. And that way I'm in a position to feed it in naturally along the curve line. In addition to that, I also find it really helpful to raise the fabric up about 1 inch or so, and this will help straighten out some of the creases and puckering. Take your time with this and just adjust as you go. If you get to a point like this, where the seam allowance is pressed towards the opposite direction, you don't want to feed it into the curl because it's going to get stuck. So you want to stop, make sure the needle is down, lift the presser foot and take the folded edge out of the curve. Line up the double fold and stitch it down like how we did in the beginning. And after you sew over that point, you can insert the edge back into the curl and continue sewing. Once you get to the closing point, you want to do the same thing. Stop at 1 inch or so before, needle down, remove the folded edge out of the curve, line up the double fold, and then just stitch it down. Now, if you're using a regular presser foot, I'm just going to use a sample swatch to show you guys, but start with a basting stitch, a 1/4 inch from the raw edge. So use the widest stitch length. Do the front and back separately and don't backstitch. We want to leave the threads open along the side seams. Gently pull the thread ends to help ease the curve inward, creating a slight gathering effect. This is similar to when you're sewing in a sleeve and you're easing in the curve along the shoulder. And this is just going to help create an even surface for the folded edge and can help avoid any puckering. We're going to then fold and press the raw edge a 1/4 inch towards the wrong side, right along the basting stitch. Adjust as you need to with more or less gathering, and then fold again a 1/4 inch towards the wrong side, now hiding the raw edge. Press and edge stitch it in place, and then repeat this technique for the shorts hemline. And finally, we're all finished. It's so comfortable and I love how it turned out. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and thanks for being here.